Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen to Brian Shapiro. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on, guys!
All right, what's up, everybody? It is the Vegas Take on a Friday. Hey, how about that? We made it through the week. And the good news is for you JD Sharp fans, he has made it. He is here. He's in studio. My co-host is here. I'm going to be ganged up today. It's going to be 2 against 1. I'll get to that in a second. But first of all, I just want to say this is going to be a lot of fun. Coming up here in hour number 2, Dana Carvey. We all know him from Wayne's World and Saturday Night Live. His impersonations are unbelievable. I'm going to ask him to do a Barack Obama, Donald Trump. What if they both get into a verbal dispute? I'm going to ask him to do that. That'll be coming up at 7:30. But we got a very special guest in studio, and we enjoyed so much having him on several weeks ago. And I got such a great response. I said, man, got to come on again. So coming in studio with us, we are joy to have him in here, Danny Tarkanian. Danny, thanks so much for being here. How are you?
Well, thank you. I was looking forward to it until you told me how you were going to kill me and destroy me on the radio now.
That's not true. That's not true. In fact, it was the opposite. I had people said that you killed me, and they thought I was too nice with you. So I said, okay, I'll play hardball today.
It's easy when you're always right, okay?
Well, that's a good one. I like that. JD, you like that when you're on the right?
I am definitely on the right.
Yeah, I know. So it's now.
I think it's a little different when he is in studio and not on the phone.
That's true. I am mean to my callers, Danny, but I'm certainly not going to be mean to you.
Hang up on him.
So I'm going to tell you a big issue that I had last week. I'm just going to start with last week, and this was the Otto Warmbier stuff. And he gets up there on a stage at the summit, and what really bothered me is he made a promise to Otto Warmbier's family. In fact, he invited them to when he made his speech last year. And he gets up there on a stage and he's asked the question about Otto, and he says, well, Kim Jong-un, he basically says that he knew nothing about it. I believe him. And then he says he felt very, very bad, very, very bad. Now, I understand the very serious situation in North Korea, okay, with the nukes. And by the way, we'll get to that. It's not good news for America. But how does that make you feel? Because it reminded me a little bit of when he was on stage with Vladimir Putin, and he said, well, Vladimir told me there was no Russian interference, so I believe him. I just felt like it was another bad moment for this president, and I know a lot of Republicans have criticized him for that on Fox News, on CNN. How do you feel about that?
Well, look at first of all, President Trump is not a politician. He doesn't know how to parse words. He speaks off the cuff, and he says some things that you sort of cringe when you hear him say certain things. My wife came out and really hit him hard. My wife's a political commentator on MSNBC and Fox News at different times. So she came out and posted some things on social media saying how she thought that was really wrong.
And I appreciate that.
And then there's a lot of our friends that came out and really and attacked her and said, hey, what do you want the guy to say? He's in the middle of these most important, and this is true, though. You're shaking your head. It is true, though. You're in a very, very important, maybe a world-saving summit trying to denuclearize.
Then why not say no comment? Why not answer the question, Danny? Why not say no comment?
You're not letting me finish. So if you want to argue, we can argue, but let me get my point out first. That was the most important thing. And as much as I certainly feel, listen, I got one son. I love him to death. If something happened to my son, I don't know. I wouldn't want to still live. I would be completely demoralized.
Right.
And I know what that family's going through.
Yeah,
it was disappointing that President Trump uttered those words. At the same time, he's not a politician. He doesn't think things through. He just talks off the cuff. And in his mind, he was probably thinking, hey, I want this thing to work. It could save the world. It could stop a nuclear catastrophe for the entire world. You're not going to get this thing settled if he's attacking Kim. I said when some of these people responded to my wife on social media, I said, hey, he could have just said something like this. Well, Kim says he didn't do it. I'm not going to get into it at this time.
Or even better yet, say no comment. And while I understand what you are saying, I don't think you have to be a politician to use a little bit of common sense.
Everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses. President Trump's strength He's not scripted. He's not politically correct. He tells it like it is, and that attracts a lot of people that support him. And at the same time, that's his weakness because he says things that many people cringe on when they hear things such as this topic we're talking about now.
I don't disagree with that.
And the things he says, they play right into the very, very polished left-wing media's hands.
I don't think so.
That are used to the very formal responses from like a Barack Obama.
Look, there are some people that are way to the left, and I agree with you. They are going to use anything against Donald Trump. But there are also some people that I respect on Fox News that go after Trump from time to time when he does and says some stupid things. So I think we all agree on that. But
there are some people on Fox News that go after Trump for no reason and bad reasons. So they're not just they're not all one-sided on him.
So give me an example.
Shepard Smith. God, I don't even watch the guy anymore. He's ridiculous how he's attacked Trump on things that aren't true. Look at you. They took out of context his statements on, and this is the deal. I was supposed to be on Shepard Smith. Oh no, he said that he couldn't get anybody to go on the show to defend Trump's statement. So I offered. I was running in the Senate race against Dean Heller. I sent him and said, I will go on your show. I'd love to talk about it. Well, they took out of context President Trump's statements about Charlottesville and the riots that went on there.
Right.
He said he thought there were good people on both sides. I'm sure there were good people on both sides. There were bad people on both sides. Don't cringe. It's absolutely
Danny,
true.
I'll tell you why I'm cringing.
And you know what? And then he said both sides were at fault. They said, how could both sides be at fault? Well, the one side killed somebody. The other side had a flame blower. How are they both
Danny,
not
there
at
were
fault?
neo-Nazis on one side.
And
How can you say there's good people on both sides?
Well,
That's a dumb thing to say.
No, that's not. Because again, so then you're saying that everybody was a neo-Nazi. No, they weren't. There were good people there.
It's the wrong thing to say,
okay.
Danny.
So you're parsing his words. And are you saying it's not true or is it true? Were there good
members,
people on both sides?
If we're comparing neo-Nazis...
They're not comparing neo-Nazis. Those are some people.
I saw them saying blood and soil.
Did you see everybody there?
Jews will not replace us.
Did you see everybody there on the side?
Those are not good people.
Of course they're not good people.
Why does he have to... Why can't he just be against it?
Again, this is it. You just want to take it out of context.
No, I don't.
Bad people on
disagree.
one side. I just said they went to bad. Didn't I just say bad people? In fact, they ran somebody over in a car and killed them. Of course they were bad people.
Right.
The neo-Nazis were bad people. But there were other people that grew up and lived in that community that didn't want to see those statues go down, so they were protesting. They were good people. Why do you have to say they're bad people? Did you know everybody?
The problem is you're
Did
assuming.
you know everybody that was there? No, I do know because they interviewed some of those people and what they thought about the history of their of the South and what they wanted. And whether you agree that Robert E. Lee's statue should come down or not, they felt it shouldn't. They lived in that community. They had a right to express their opinion, and they were good people. So you want to focus on the bad people, not on everybody.
I think you're making an assumption.
President Trump said there were good people on both sides, and there were bad people on both sides. In fact, when he said there were bad people on both sides, they ripped him for it. And then I said
he said there were bad people on both sides.
Yes,
so how can you say there's good people on both sides? I mean,
because there's multiple people. They were protesting. Some were protesting because they really, in their heart, believed that they should keep the Robert E. Lee statue up, and others were the neo-Nazis, bad people, right? Then there were the ones that said, "Hey, we don't want the neo-Nazis here. They're good people. Let's get them out of here." And then there were the bad ones. How about the bad one who had the flamethrower that was trying to burn the other protesters?
Let's just assume, for argument's sake, that you're right. Okay, why are there so few minorities working in the White House cabinet?
Oh my goodness! There's been no president that has done. No president has done more for the African American community.
That's not what I asked you.
President. Well, he hires the best people out there. What do you care? How many?
Do you really believe that he hires the best people out there?
Absolutely, the best that he thinks.
Did you hear what's been going on in the last year about all the people that have pled guilty, lied to the? Is Paul Manafort one of the best people?
Was he
in the
administration? Was he in the administration?
He was the campaign manager for 3 months. He was the
I said in his administration. Why again? He
hires the best people.
No wonder they think they get mad at you on the radio station. You don't listen and then respond. I said he hires who he thinks is the best people in his administration, and in his administration.
That's not what he said, though. He said I hired the best people. That was his quote.
Look, President Trump has done more for the African American community than any president since Abraham Lincoln, and the Democrats can't stand it. His approval ratings with the African Americans are skyrocketing from where other presidents are in the mid-20s. When Bush and Romney and McCain's were all in the single digits, and it's scaring the Dickens. Can I say that? I was going to say the crap.
I think you can say
Dickens out of.
I believe you can.
out of the Democrats. So they want to say, well, you don't have enough blacks in the administration or African Americans. You know, George W. Bush hired all kinds of African Americans, had them in the White House, and certainly his policies didn't help the African American community anywhere close to what President Trump's are. So get off the racist stuff on that.
Clearly, Manafort was a very, very good campaign manager. He was very good. But yes,
he's a great guy.
Is he a great guy? No. But was he a good campaign manager? Yes. And he only went down. He didn't go down for collusion with the Russians. He went down for tax fraud and bank fraud. That had nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Okay.
At all.
When I hear Donald Trump say, "I hire the best people,"
the best at what they do, clearly.
Okay. Well, and you're right. Administration, not necessarily I'm talking about right now, but this is his right-hand man, his attorney, who, by the way, he said for years was a great guy and very good at what he does.
What do you
and
want
then the
to
second
say?
he flips on, man,
what do you want
he
to say? He's
flips.
a bad guy?
Well, how about just say, you know what, I really screwed up. I was wrong about this
You
guy.
also notice that Cohen's
He's
lawyer,
saying that now.
Cohen's first lawyer actually asked Trump for a pardon, which Trump turned down.
That's not, first of all, that is not fact. You are going by a story that came out, and Michael Cohen denies that he ever asked for a pardon. It could have been spoken about by his attorneys, but Donald Trump goes on Twitter today and he says, Michael Cohen asked me for a pardon. You know, this just comes out of nowhere now with absolutely no proof to back it up. Let's talk about
why does he need more proof than anybody else? Because the Democrats have tagged him as a liar. He says that Cohen told him that. How do you know he didn't?
Well, Michael Cohen says he didn't, so I'm not going to believe.
Michael Cohen, the guy who just lied and is being put in jail for lying to Congress, then he comes back to Congress and clearly lies again when he said, I've never asked for a pardon, and it is clear his attorney asked for a pardon.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now.
Cohen is pretty reliable.
I don't believe anything Donald Trump says.
He's very reliable.
I'm just telling you, I don't.
Most Democrats don't.
No, I'm not a Democrat.
Most of the Trump dislikers don't.
You're right. I am a Trump disliker, but I'm not a Democrat. So I want to read you what Donald Trump said today in regards to Paul Manafort. He said both the judge and the lawyer in the Paul Manafort case stated loudly and for the world to hear that there was no collusion with Russia. The judge said there was no collusion with Russia. That's not true. Okay, the judge said no such thing. He actually noted that Manafort wasn't accused of collusion and that the trial focused on unrelated financial crimes, but the judge did not declare that there was no collusion in 2016. This is the President of the United States, and what he says matters. And I understand he's not a politician, but that is not factual, what he said today.
So again, this is how the Trump haters, how about that? The Trump haters target Trump and say he's a liar. What President Trump clearly was talking about there was that Paul Manafort has been convicted of crimes and sentenced to prison, and none of those had to do with anything to do. Don't cut me off. To do with collusion.
That's not what he said.
No, that is what he said. You take it out of context.
I just read the quote.
Because you take it out of context.
How could I take a quote out of context?
Because you don't know what the whole topic was before he was talking and after he was talking about that.
I don't know.
You could take a sentence. I'll tell you a perfect point. I won my defamation lawsuit against Mike Snyder. Mike Snyder said that our attorney said, what can you say in a political campaign? Oh, anything. So if Danny said Danny Tarkanian likes boys who play hard on the basketball court, is it okay for you to say Danny Tarkanian says he likes boys? And he said, of course you can.
But I'm not reading half a sentence. I'm reading the whole sentence.
But you're not reading what was said before that, or was after that, or the content of what they were talking about.
That's the quote.
Clearly, the content, what they were talking about, was Manafort being found guilty and sentenced for crimes. And he's talking about those crimes had nothing to do with collusion, and they didn't.
We're going to have
this
to
is the
agree to
problem the
disagree on that.
Democrats have on this. They keep saying there's collusion, and they keep pointing all these people being convicted.
I didn't say there was
being
collusion.
convicted by the that were tied to Trump, and none of it deals with collusion.
Right. Well, first of all, with all due respect, I never said there was collusion, number one. Number two, there is an investigation that is still ongoing, and I can't stand it when, not you, I haven't heard you say this, but when Republicans say, oh, they found nothing. There's something called an ongoing investigation, okay? Now, if the investigation ends and they come up with no Russian collusion, I will be the first one on the air to say, thank God there's no Russian collusion. Even though I never said there was, what I have said is...
What if they come up with 150 Facebook accounts that maybe swayed 1,000 votes in Donald Trump's favor? Is that Russian collusion in your mind?
Well, I mean, we know that there was interference into our elections.
But does that...
That's 100%.
But is that collusion?
If Donald Trump was involved in any illegal activity that could have swayed the election with help from the Russians, then absolutely 100%. I'm not saying that happened. I'm just saying I want to wait until
There's so much to touch upon there. First of all, how many elections has the United States government interfered in?
I don't know.
well, I mean, you can just talk about President Obama and his interference in Netanyahu, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, from Israel when he got reelected, when he tried
Netanyahu.
There you go. And he interfered in Israel's election to try to stop him from being reelected as prime minister. It's gone on in our country. And second of all, there's been no one
Doesn't make it right.
Of course it doesn't make it right. But we're sitting here and we're saying that this is an impeachable offense. It's a crime, but it's not even a crime. What statute is it a crime?
It's dependent upon if there is a crime, what exactly it is. We don't know.
The only thing I can see it possibly being a crime is if he got a financial benefit from this type of collusion and he accepted it and knew about it.
Are you going to accept?
Without that, there is no crime on what he's talking about.
If he owed Russia money and that helped him pay that debt off.
Will you accept?
That would be a crime.
Will both of you accept the Robert Mueller, when this over, when the investigation, will you accept that report? No matter what it says.
No, of course not.
Why?
Because you have no idea what evidence backs it up. If he has evidence to back up what he says, then yes.
Well, see, the thing about the report
I would hope he does.
Look, he's got dozens of Clinton supporting attorneys, many of them that he had to get rid of because they were exposed as hating Trump doing this investigation. He shouldn't have done that. There's enough attorneys out there that he could have hired that were not biased and not politically against Trump, and he'd have more credibility. He didn't. Now what I think we need to do is let's see what he comes up with, not just what he writes. Okay, he says this happened, and then let's see the evidence, and if the evidence is there, then you support it.
I couldn't agree with you more, but there's a lot of
Here's the thing about the Mueller probe is he doesn't decide who gets to see the evidence. The Attorney General sees it first.
Yeah, we know that. Barr. We know that.
You're right.
I think Barr's going to do the right thing. There's way too much pressure on him.
If there's something smoking gun about Trump and he puts it out, the left is going to go absolutely nuts.
Okay, well,
we're talking public unrest,
I can't
possible
speak
riots,
for the left.
a big deal. And I think that Barr is smart enough to know that.
I
don't think we're really going to find out what's in there.
It's pretty simple here. We want to know whether he broke the law or not.
We've seen how polarized the country actually is.
He didn't break the law, we can move on. If he did break the law, then he's going to have to suffer the consequences. That's just the bottom line. Why don't we take some calls? Danny, 257-5396 is the number to call. I believe we have one open phone line at 702-257-5396. It is a good discussion. Phoebe, why don't we start with Phoebe? Phoebe, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Hi, Phoebe.
I'm well, thank you, gentlemen. I'm very curious, and I'd like some clarification on the statement that President Trump has done more for African Americans since any president since Abraham Lincoln. And I'd also like to know where these poll numbers come from. I'm very curious.
Lowest unemployment rate in Africa in the history for African Americans since they've been targeted. Criminal injustice, criminal. Well, you want me to answer it or answer it? Or you want it?
Well, let me refute. May I refute one of your points?
Go ahead.
Are you aware of the fact that President Obama cut black unemployment in half, and Trump only lowered it by 1%?
All right, that's a good point, Phoebe. Let's let Danny respond to that.
When you play with numbers with President Trump, President Obama, because when he took over, we were in a recession, and a recession caused by the policies of the Democrat Congress with the way they handle the banking institutions. So stop blaming it on President Bush. The high unemployment rate was there. Of course it was going to drop, but it's never dropped to the level it has now. Never dropped to the level it's had now. Not with Clinton.
It's only dropped 1 point since President Obama left office.
Not with Clinton.
Anyway.
No, it's dropped a lot more than that. It's not with Clinton.
Black unemployment?
Not with Clinton. Not with John F. Kennedy. Not with any of the other Democrat presidents. It's the lowest point it's ever been.
More than 1 point since Obama
It's the
left
lowest
office?
president. It's the lowest level it's ever been.
You stop saying it's the lowest, please. I know you're more intelligent than that. Trump dropped black unemployment by 1 point, one single digit. Go on.
Well, I love to see your stats from that because I haven't heard that from anybody. So you can.
Really? You haven't? Well, President Obama took it from something like 16.8 to I can't remember now exactly because I'm in my car, 7.9.
Well, you do a good job interrupting me all the time, so I thought you might have some stats to show.
Person. I thought you were intelligent, but you're spewing this line that's ridiculous.
All right.
Trump dropped black unemployment by 1 point from where Obama left off.
You can say what you want to say. The fact of the matter is, no but president has gotten unemployment lower for the African American community than President Trump. Anybody, you said you're a smart person, where a smart person would understand, much tougher to drop the unemployment rate from 4% to 3% than to drop it from 16%, as you said, to 10 or 8%. That's not hard to do. In fact, it was above the very normal average. But when President Trump took over, it was at a low level, and he took it to the lowest ever. Second of all the criminal justice reform that he passed, which had to actually undo a lot of what President Clinton had done. So he's helped them in the criminal justice system. With all the African Americans that I've talked with, have made that one of their top priorities. You look at the income that's risen. The hourly wage, or the average income for workers, has increased more than the last 10 years for all of them, including African Americans. Those are the numbers I'm talking about.
All right.
And with respect to the poll numbers of Trump getting in the mid-20s, he's had some poll numbers like Rasmussen and others that have him getting to 30-40% approval rating with African Americans. These 20% is polls that are coming out from CNN and other ones.
I think it's fair to say that both of you disagree, but I like a good debate, and as you know, it's very difficult for me not to chime in, but I kept quiet that whole conversation. 257-5396.
Great call, Phoebe.
Yes, Danny Tarkanian joining us, 257-5396. We only got about 3 or 4 minutes, then we got to take our first break. Let's go to Stephen. Stephen, thanks for calling in. How are you, Stephen?
Yeah, good evening. Danny, glad you're there.
Thank you.
I'm glad to speak to the first and only politician I've ever made a donation to.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Well, I only got one suggestion for improvement. I've listened a lot to Megan Barth, Reagan babe.
Yeah, I know her.
She's conducting a lot of the investigation into election fraud here. I prefer to just call you my congressman until they prove that the election was legitimate.
Thank you for the call, Stephen. Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that, Stephen. And I certainly believe that there is some voter fraud that goes on here in Southern Nevada, but not to the extent that it would have made a difference in my race this election, nor would have made a difference in Laxalt or Heller's. We had lost by a significant amount. And the Democrats turned out, or I shouldn't just say that, the people that I think that opposed President Trump came out and voted in this last election at a very high rate, and we didn't get the supporters out that we needed to.
I heard a rumor that my co-host, Danny, JD, voted 200 times for Bernie Sanders. I don't know if that's true or not, Danny, but I don't know.
It was actually 643 times.
Okay. 257-5396. Let's sneak in one more call before we go to break. Mike, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. You're on with Danny Tarkanian. How are you?
Yes, good. We just want to say thank you very much. That woman a couple of calls ago, she's just blowing hot smoke because she's trying to stick up for Obama. She's got nothing but bad to say about Trump, but she doesn't want to admit the truth. Trump has brought the books down from welfare. Over 16 million people were on food stamps when Obama was in office. Now Trump has those people working and happy, paying bills, buying cars, buying goods. When they were on
hold on,
buying shit.
Okay, first of all, you can't swear on the radio, so goodbye. It's hard.
He was absolutely right. I forgot about the welfare. We had the highest number of people on welfare during the Obama years. In fact, they were advertising using taxpayer money, advertising, telling people to get on welfare and how to get on welfare. And it's been cut. Has it been cut in half? I don't know.
At one point, there was almost 50 million Americans on welfare.
All right, well, we're going to talk about this when we come back because maybe I disagree a little bit. I give Trump credit for the economy and unemployment.
Which is 17% of the population, by the way.
I give Trump credit for the economy and low unemployment numbers, but I also don't think he just waved a magic wand when he took over. I do believe that Obama took over an absolute mess, which anybody would agree with,
you don't think Trump's a wizard?
Do I think Trump's a wizard?
Yeah.
He's very good at paying people off. He's good at that. I don't know. Would you call him a wizard there? He's done some good things with the economy. No question about it. Unemployment numbers are down. But, hey, it's a good conversation. Danny Tarkanian in studio. Phone lines are completely full, so we're going to have to take some calls. When Danny comes in, we always get a lot of calls, that's for sure. No one ever donated to me. Why don't people donate money to me for my radio campaign? I don't know. Anyway. By the way, Dana Carvey's going to be joining us in hour number 2.
We could start a GoFundMe for hair plugs.
Yeah, I definitely need. I definitely need some of those.
I feel like that would be very, very successful.
Yeah. Be honest though, you don't take anything personal in a political debate, right?
No, I don't. But I also try to be respectful. I let her talk, and I just wanted to get my points in.
No,
so.
that's fair. I understand that. We don't want things to get really personal here, but I'll be honest with you, Danny. When somebody calls into my show and they say something disrespectful or dumb, I call them an idiot. That's just what I do. Maybe I'm just not a good person. I'm not as good as you. But
you get to you get to come back no matter what. I can't come back if I don't get invited.
That's true. That's true. No, all seriousness though, I'm really glad you're here. These are good debates. I enjoy having them. I know you're not afraid of it, and it's 2 against 1 in studio, but that's fine. I don't mind that. More comments, questions for Danny Tarkanian coming up. We've got JD, we've got L, we got David. You're on next. The Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Special guest Danny Tarkanian in studio. This is going to be fun. Coming up at 7:30, Dana Carvey. Big fan of Dana Carvey. Also a very big fan of not just what Danny Tarkanian did at UNLV, but of course his father, the legend, the late Danny Tarkanian, and what your wife has done as well. But it's incredible because I could talk basketball with you for hours. Stories about your dad and things that went down here at UNLV. It's just incredible. But I don't really want to get into the UNLV subject. Let's stick to the politics subject because then, believe it or not, you can see I'm passionate when it comes to politics.
Can see
Danny,
your face is red.
yes,
You're sweating.
Danny, I turn into a tomato when we talk today about UNLV. It's crazy. But we were just talking about a mutual friend, Larry Eustace, who we both believe would do a great job here at UNLV.
Larry's one of the great coaches in college basketball. He's won at all these small schools that nobody gave him a chance to win at.
Right.
He's one of the great coaches out there.
He really is. Well, let's take some more calls. The phone lines are jammed at 257-5396. Got J.D. Sharp, my co-host, who is here today. I'm very happy to say, J.D., thank you for being here. And we have Danny Tarkanian, of course, in studio as well. Let's go to a caller, J.D., not my co-host, J.D. J.D., thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. You're on with Danny Tarkanian.
Thank you. I wanted to use 3 quick points. I wanted to use the opportunity with 3 great basketball minds. And, Bruce, I really think that's your strong suit. First of all, the Charlottesville, I wasn't going to talk about it, but I have read the entire transcript, over 2 pages long, of Trump being interviewed and interrupted and explaining entirely the entire thing about just about everybody that was there, including the statues. Unfortunately, I think that was the second comment, and the newspaper and the newsmen just used the first comment when he said there were good and bad people. So I suggest, Bruce, you read the entire 2 or 3 pages, I believe, of a second comment on that situation, and you'll see the clarification he made with everybody. In regard to the woman who called up about black unemployment, Danny, unfortunately, some people, when they are faced with the facts, if they don't like the facts, they make up their own facts.
Okay, I could say the same thing, with all due respect, I could say the same thing about Trumpies who will never say anything negative about the man. So, I mean, you could go both ways there.
I'm not doing that, Bruce. I'm not,
Bruce? Who's Bruce?
Brian, pardon me.
Okay,
JD.
That
I call a spade a spade.
I know that. I understand
and finally,
that, JD.
Here's my third point, which is what
quickly.
I wanted to bring up, I think, because you got our 3 good basketball minds. UNLV just hired a sports psychologist. Danny, do you think they need a sports psychologist?
Good question, JD. I appreciate the calls. Go ahead, Danny.
I think that they could probably need a few more things besides that, but
like people in the seats. How about that?
I would tell you, when my dad first got the job here, they did not have a academic advisor that could work with the student athletes on what classes to take and tutors and so forth. Mm-hmm. And my mom used to try to do it as best as she could. Once they went to the Final Four in '77, they used that money to hire an academic advisor. I think things like that are probably a little bit more important than a psychiatrist.
I agree. 110%. Now, I probably need a psychiatrist, but I don't think UNLV is going to pay for that. 257.
Unless she's like Wendy in Billions.
Yeah. 257-5396, the number to call. You're Danny Tarkanian in studio. 257-5396. Let's go to L. L, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Hi, L.
Hello. Thanks for taking my call. Okay, my question, Danny is saying all these things about the taxes and this and black unemployment. Let's just take these Republican talking points and assume they're all true. Right? It's not, because the tax breaks are not paid for. We got the highest deficit. But are you at all concerned about the corruption, the security clearances? This man on the world stage, he has embarrassed this country, has tried to tear down all of our institutions.
All right, L, let's Elle, I'm sorry to cut you off. Stay on the line, but I want to give Danny a chance to respond to that. That was a very good question she asked about these security clearances with his daughter, and Jared Kushner, when a lot of people around him were very concerned. I
just read a social media post by Senator Paul, and assuming he's right, he said the president is the final authority on the security clearances, and he can authorize it when he wants. Why wouldn't he authorize security clearance for his daughter? Don't you think he knows his daughter better than anybody and his son-in-law?
Go ahead, Elle. Let's ask her that.
Well, my next question is, saying what you just said, why lie about it like he's done about everything?
That's a good point.
Why does he have to lie? Why does he have to hide it? What's
That's a good
the
point.
problem with this man with this lying?
That's a very good point. He did lie.
I certainly think he's made some misstatements, some obvious ones like the crowd size.
Lies.
Please let me. I'll try to answer your question if you let me finish. So he's made some misrepresentations, such as the crowd size and so forth. I don't know what he said about the security clearances, but a lot of times what I've seen is the media takes statements like they did with the Charlottesville out of context to make him look like he's lying or saying something bad, and then they crucify him with them. Look, let me just finish, then you can say. So look, there's no doubt President Trump embellishes. He exaggerates. He certainly thinks very highly about what he does and his accomplishments. However, how many of you fail to remember that President Obama lied about major important issues like
not every day.
No, we're not talking about it. I'm trying to get to my point. President Trump lies about things like the crowd size, about what I see more things that aren't that relevant. President Obama lied about big things like what caused the Benghazi terrorist act, not paying ransom for those people, Iranian. When they released the hostages. We can go on to different things that were major policy decisions. The point I'm saying is, hey, President Trump is not a perfect person. I've said this over and over again, he makes mistakes, he does things that are wrong, and he has character flaws like all of us do. The Democrats, the people that don't like Trump have done a good job focusing on him being dishonest.
He's a bit of a salesman.
And that is, if I'm thankful for anything throughout this man's tenure, is we've got people on the inside that are willing to leak, and now we've got some information on the security clearances. This is a criminal, and like Michael Cohen said, you're following him, everybody's following him blindly, and they're going to end up where he is. Just wake up. It's about country, not party.
You are entitled.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, you are entitled to your opinion, Elle, and I do appreciate the call, but we got to get to some other callers here. Thank you for the call, Elle. Let's go to David. David, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Love the conversation. Two quick comments and one question for Danny.
Sure.
My first comment is that everybody's always talking about how Bush was handed Obama the big mess in 2008. Well, if I recall, the crash happened in October of 2008, and at that time it was totally obvious that Obama was going to win the election. And just like everybody else, every productive member of society, I was hunkering down for that disaster. So I still blame the 2008 crisis on Obama, not Bush.
No,
that's my first comment.
I think
second comment is one of better hope. Second comment, I've been a Las Vegas resident since 1986, and even though I'm a red guy swimming in a wave of blue, it seems at this moment, and feel like I'm drowning, this is still the best place on earth to live.
We agree on that. Thank you, David, for the call. We definitely agree on that.
Look, there's a lot of things that you can blame President Bush for, maybe some of those with the economy. But the biggest problem we had with the housing crisis and what caused that recession was the Community Reinvestment Act, which was passed first of all by Carter and then made stronger by President Clinton. And it forced banks to lend money to lend money to people to buy homes who could not qualify for it, and it put our housing market in the situation it was in, and people will not acknowledge that. And it's clear anybody who understands what happened in the housing crisis knows it was a Community Reinvestment Act that was forced upon us by two Democrat presidents.
And Louis Ranieri, if you watch The Big Short, was one of the big guys who kind of put that into the open market. But Obama basically had nothing to do with the housing crisis.
I don't defend Barack Obama in a lot of circumstances. I also think he hurt race relations. And I was very critical of him. I did not vote for Hillary Clinton, but we can talk about the economy and we can talk about unemployment and how he's helping African Americans, but I think he just embarrasses this country on a daily basis with the insults, the things he says, and the lying. And I have to agree with our caller, Elle, who did call in. He lied about the clearance. He was asked about it. He said if he had anything to do with the security clearances of Jared Kushner's daughter, his response was no. We know that 110% by every single person that was involved in this that is not biased, that's a lie.
We know by 110%, and everybody that has firsthand knowledge in this, that since Obamacare was passed, we could not keep our doctor. We could not keep our insurance
what does that have
policies.
to do with what I just
These
said?
are lies that Obama made.
Okay.
I'm saying,
but Obama's not our president right
I know,
now.
but what we talked about, but this is the point. All these presidents, Clinton lied. In fact, Clinton lost his bar license because he lied under oath. Obama's lied, and Trump's lied. Okay, they've all lied. No, it doesn't make it right. But you got the Trump haters want to pile on Trump because they catch him on these lies.
Why is it if you critique Donald Trump, you're labeled a hater? I don't understand
Well,
that.
you already said you were, so I just assumed that was it.
I don't like Donald Trump. I don't like his personality, but I'm going to be honest with you.
I'm a disliker.
But I'm going to be honest with you. Even though I think the things he does and says he's a disgrace as a human being, I will tell you this. Let him keep doing what he's doing. If the economy continues to grow and unemployment numbers are way down, he certainly gives us something to talk about every day. That's for sure.
The point, just to clarify, the point I'm saying is, I grew up idolizing statesmen like Senator Laxalt, Paul Laxalt, Senator Richard Bryan, O'Callahan, who was a governor. You want to trust these people, but we are seeing more and more and more that the people that are in office, high office, they've lied to us across the board. And I'll even take it a step further. As long as we allow candidates to lie in political races, why do you not expect them to lie to you once they're in office?
It's got to stop.
Yeah, well, I'm tired of it. I have a case in front of the Nevada Supreme Court right now making this exact same argument that you should not be able to lie in these political ads. And their argument is, hey, free speech, you should be able to say virtually anything you want.
Well, I don't agree with that, and I think that obviously hurt your campaign, and I understand that, and I know why that's a personal issue for you. But
when you elect people that lie to get elected, they're going to lie to you once they're in office.
How about people that lie to get elected, like when someone says we're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it? Do you have a problem with that?
Sure, but again, this is the way he looks at things compared to the little part of it. And again, I think he strains the language from it. His feeling on paying for it, I knew when he was saying it, was he was going to pass policies that was going to force Mexico to have to do better for us, whether it was trade, like revising the NAFTA deal, or otherwise, that it was going to end up covering the cost of having to build a wall.
With that said,
that's not what he said, though.
Right.
I want to understand that, but I'm saying I see that's what he was getting
I wouldn't have had a problem with that, Danny. If he went on the campaign trail and said that, I swear to you, I would not have had a problem with that. Good. He wants to build a wall, and he's going to try to. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But as the president and someone that is running for president, trying to get your vote, says, build a wall, Mexico is going to pay for it. There are a lot of idiots in this country that vote on that alone, thinking, oh, he's going to get Mexico to pay for it. He's going to be really tough with the president there. That's not how it works.
Sure,
and there are a lot of idiots.
It was actually genius marketing.
Yeah. Well, genius. If you want to call a liar genius, that's fine.
It was genius marketing, and it is legal.
Well, I guess I used
until it's illegal.
If
you follow politics right now, Ocasio-Cortez is using the exact same structure that Donald Trump did.
She didn't get elected by lying.
She's making over-the-top statements to grab attention to herself. And then she's coming through with her actual intelligence stuff.
I still don't think that makes you a genius. You could be a used car salesman or a con man that could get a lot of money, and if you make a lot of money off of that, you're not a genius for doing it.
You don't think "Make America Great Again" was an absolutely genius slogan?
Oh, it was a great slogan.
Because it was.
Did Donald Trump make that up himself?
"Make America Great Again" and build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it is what got Donald Trump elected.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of idiots that voted for him just based on that alone. I'm sorry, with all due respect. 257-5396. If you voted for him for a lot of other reasons that we've been talked about on the show today, that's fine. But if you voted for him just because you think that Mexico was going to pay for the wall, then you are a moron and you were suckered. 257-5396. Let's go to Fernando. Fernando, you're on with Danny Tarkanian. How are you?
What's up, Fernando?
I'm good, fellas. Well, history has shown us that past presidents have done good and have done bad. And
wait, repeat that. Wait, what's done good and bad? Say that again.
Past presidents have done good.
Past presidents, okay.
Past presidents.
Yep, go ahead, Fernando.
Okay, and Mr. Tarkanian, I just want to say thank you for the community work you've done in Las Vegas Valley.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
And I was wondering, back in the mid-'90s, was there a talk about you or your brother George becoming the UNLV head coach?
No, there wasn't. I coached with my father in Fresno in 1995 to 2002. My brother was coaching at a junior college, but I don't believe our names were ever mentioned as coaching here at UNLV after my dad left. I will tell you, this is a story no one's ever heard of before, and I'm going to say
let's
today,
hear it.
and I think it's pretty astounding the more I thought about it. When Boehner got fired or left UNLV because of the issues that he was having, it was my dad's last year at Fresno, and a guy named Wiesner, Tom Wiesner, was a board of regent, and he contacted my dad to ask if he'd be interested in come back to UNLV and replacing Bano until they got another coach in. And my dad was going to do it. He told Tom he would accept. He would leave. Now we had a great team coming back at Fresno. We had 3 potential first-round draft choices coming back, and we had a really great opportunity. And he told Tom Wiesner, yes, he would do it if he can get it done. Wiesner went to the president, and I believe it was Carol Harder at the time, and she vetoed it immediately.
Really?
But he was that close to coming back. If
I did not know that. And he probably would have been successful.
I don't think anybody knew that because it was only between Tom Wiesner and my dad had discussed it with me.
After everything that went down, he almost came back. That's incredible. I wish he did, Danny. That's the truth. All right, 257-5396. We'll take a few more calls. Let's go to Gary. Gary, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Oh, good. Pretty good. I don't understand why, but listen, you keep calling me. You keep saying idiot and moron and reminding me that I need to call the show. Hey,
I'm not gonna, Gary. I'm not gonna call you an idiot, Gary. Come on, I like you.
I used to be Generator Johnson, but lately I'm just a retarded genius. And I say this: Kim Jong Un played us and played President Trump.
Gary, I'll tell you what, you're definitely not an idiot. You're definitely not a moron because I agree with you 100%. And, I'm an idiot and a moron, but not when it comes to doing radio.
Right.
I'd like to think.
Anybody Brian agrees with is obviously not an idiot or a moron.
Gary, you're an extremely intelligent individual, just as smart as Donald Trump. But I do believe him. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's take another call. 702-257-5396. Go to Bob. Bob, you're on with Danny Tarkanian. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. Thank you very much. And thank you for the lively discussion. Look, here's the problem I have. I think we're in a state of denial. We're in a confrontation of cultures. They've formed alliances, and there's 4 alliances. One is the Public Employees Union. The other is the school, which used to be institution education. Now the higher and lower reform, they're now an industry. And then the entitlement group. And the thing that really surprised me as a mature traditional male was the media. They have formed an
Bob, I'm falling asleep. Can you please ask a question to Danny Tarkanian with all due respect? I mean, we only have a certain amount of time. I'm trying to be respectful, Bob, but I'm falling asleep. Seriously, please. You're on with Danny Tarkanian, the legendary Danny Tarkanian. Do you have a question for him?
I was following you, but
yeah, I was trying to lay it out in a civil, unhurried discussion.
I appreciate that, Bob, but there's other callers that I need to get to. I can't keep you on for 5 minutes, so go ahead, quickly finish your point.
Sure.
Go ahead.
You think we're approaching a civil war? Because I'm very concerned about the intellect of these people who use Trump and use to call us names in a de facto or inference way, and then I've never seen such vulgarity, which is a reflection of, I think, the poor evolution in particular.
We have certainly never been polarized like this before. That's absolutely the truth. I don't know how you can have a civil war in today's technology and weapons out there. I mean, anybody who brought up arms, I mean, no matter what they have, the military's weapons just annihilate any uprising, I would think, although it would be extremely bloody and it would certainly make an incredible impact for our country. But let me tell you, I think you also missed one of the other major groups, and I think the biggest problem we're seeing in our country now, the globalists to the nationalists, and the globalists want to take care of the rest of the world. And quite honestly, many of these globalists, they're both Republicans and Democrats, have made millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Paul Manafort was one of those. We can go on and on. I believe the Clintons were globalists. I'm a nationalist. I think you take care of, if you're the president of the United States or you're a senator or congressman of the United States, you need to do what's best for the people of the United States, not what's best for the rest of the world. I'd love to take care of the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to feed, clothe, house everybody. But first and foremost, they need to be fed, clothed, and housed here in the United States.
And I agree. I wanted to bring this up, and then we'll take some more calls. My problem with people talking about Omar, I think she's a disgrace, and I agree with Donald Trump what he said about her. But here's my problem: he's not consistent. Steve King, he said some reprehensible things, some racist things. He has a history of it. I've never heard Donald Trump say that he should go. He should do. We can all agree. Okay.
You got a double standard there. You can't find 5 Democrat congressmen or senators that are attacking Omar. Is that how you pronounce her name?
I can give you more than 5 that have spoke out against the way she's talked. Absolutely, some of them Jewish descent.
They couldn't even get a vote to. They couldn't even get a resolution to vote to censor her,
which is pathetic.
But again, you're right. Trump should speak out when people on
Both
his party
sides.
do it. Exactly.
It's a joke.
But
I hate it.
We're polarized politically. And
Steve King is a racist. We could agree that Omar is an anti-Semite. She just hates Jews. I don't care. You can make the excuse of Israel and policy. It is nonsense. It is. She is, blanketed by her hatred towards Jews. And I wish she wasn't representing anybody, but unfortunately she is. Let's take one more quick call, and then we got to go to break. Let's go to Randy. Randy, thanks for calling in. How are you, Randy? You're on with Danny Tarkanian.
I'm great. Love you, Danny. I'll always love you, Danny.
I tell you what, you got the best enthusiasm.
You do so much, Danny. It's Randy. You remember who I am. We love you. Couple of questions for you real quick. Any interest in being in the board of regents at UNLV or being a president? We support you. We'll get you in there. We're going to win the Mountain West tournament next week.
This guy's so awesome.
I'm not.
Thanks, Randy. I appreciate the call.
I would love to be able to do public service, but I'm taking some time with my family, and I certainly think we need some strong people in the Board of Regents position. We need a real good president to get our university back.
I was going to ask you about that. They got to find a president, right? Who would you recommend?
I don't know. I haven't followed it well enough. I don't know a lot of what went on with the last president that was here full time, but I know my mother liked him a lot, thought he did a great job. A lot of really big financial donors loved the guy. But he was pushed out by 2 or 3 of the Board of Regents, including the one that represents my district, and I think that's a little unfortunate.
What do you think about our governor? Anything to say about him?
I like Governor. Well, first of all, I like Governor Sisolak as a person. I like with the policies I think he really believes in.
Yeah.
I think he's pushing policies further to the left than he really would want to. But he has a right to do that because the Democrats won the Assembly and the Senate, and they have a right to push policies that they believe in because they were voted in. It was unfortunate we didn't do a better job in 2014 when the Republicans controlled the governor's office in the Assembly and the Senate. The Republicans are paying a big price now. Look at some of the things they're trying to pass. First of all, same-day voter registration.
Yeah.
Imagine that. All the tourists, all the people that come here in our state, let alone here in Clark County, we're going to say, hey, we're going to allow anybody to register to vote on election day.
That's ridiculous.
That's going to pass. Mark my words, it'll pass.
Because whoever's trying to pass that bill, that's just ridiculous.
Sisolak will have. You asked what I think about Sisolak. My feeling is he'll probably sign it, and I really disagree with that. As with some of the other policies,
that's stupid. That's almost as ridiculous as, and we'll get to this coming up next segment. Illegals that are allowed to drive vehicles, get driver's license, and get credit cards. Look, I am not for Donald Trump's rhetoric with these people coming into this country are rapists. They're all bad people. I'm not for that rhetoric.
It's quoted. He didn't say they were all bad people.
They're rapists.
He said he thinks there are some good ones, too.
He said, quote, I suppose there are some good ones, too. That is a ridiculous statement. So I think you're going to divide people. When you know that's wrong, Danny. You wouldn't say that.
That was a bad statement.
Yeah, that was dumb. I mean, just say, look, we need border security. This is my plan. This is what I want to do. Don't demonize people because I do think the majority of these people coming into this country are not bad people. I think the stats would show that. Now, they are breaking the law. With that being said, I get that. But I do want to get, this is a big topic, and I know you want to respond to this because illegal immigration is a huge topic right now, whether you're on the left or the right. So I want to get your thoughts on that. We got Danny Tarkanian in studio, JD Sharp, and we're going to talk a little UNLV hoops as well. 3,000 people in the stands. They play Colorado State on the road tomorrow. Don't forget Dana Carvey coming up, too, in about 40 minutes from now. So stay tuned for that. And, of course, Danny Tarkanian in studio answering your questions at 257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the program. You're welcome to ask Danny Tarkanian a question live right now on the air. Just be respectful or more respectful than me. 257-5396, the number to call. We'll take a break. Be back right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take.
Kilmeade, Hannity, Levin, 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN, Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro coming up here in about 30 minutes. We will be speaking with the legendary comic and actor Dana Carvey. But we have another legend in studio. That's right, UNLV legend. And, of course, his father's got to be one of the best college basketball coaches ever of all time, the late, great Danny Tarkanian. And we all miss him very much here in Las
Jerry
Vegas.
Tarkanian.
What did I say, Larry?
You keep calling me Danny.
You've said.
Did I say Danny? I'm sorry,
that's the
Jerry.
second time you've called his dad Danny.
This is the problem.
I know, I didn't say it the first time.
I apologize.
That's
Sorry
okay.
about that. That's what problems when you're on a sugar rush and you're a diabetic. I'm drinking Coke all day. I apologize. The late, great Jerry
You're just
Tarkanian.
out of control right now,
I
Brian.
really am. I am completely out of
Tone it
control.
down.
So, number to call, by the way, if you want to be a part of the show and you can pronounce his father's name right, give us a call, 257-5396. 866 702-257-5396 here with Danny Tarkanian. Now, Danny, I know somebody called up last segment where you guys were talking about black unemployment, right?
The first segment, and I want to give Elle her due because what Elle said partly
it was Phoebe.
Phoebe. I'm
Phoebe,
sorry,
yep.
Phoebe. Okay, I have the wrong name. But, yeah, she had mentioned that black unemployment has only gone down 1% with President Trump, which is true. This is the stats. When President Obama took office in 2009, black unemployment was 12.7%. Then it went up to 16.5%. Phoebe said he took office when it was 16.5%. It was 6.5% when he was in office. It remained in double digits for 7 of President Obama's last 8 years. And when President Obama left, it was 8%. And when now with President Trump, it's 7%. I still say, and I think it's very clear if you understand how this works, it's a lot tougher to drop the unemployment rate as the number lowers than it is when it's way up in double digits.
Just like it's harder to become
that's basic economics.
A B+ student to an A student than a D student to a B+ student.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think.
So Phoebe, you were right with the 1%.
I don't think anybody would that's logical would disagree with what both of you just said. No doubt about it. I wanted to talk a little bit about this, the Me Too movement, and now everything that. And although I'm not sure this has anything to do with it, but you see these stories now that get very salacious, graphic, and it was tough to watch. Disgusting. This Michael Jackson show on HBO, which was a 2-part series, and you got Michael Jackson's side that are saying that these alleged victims are just doing it for the money.
Actually, LaToya came out today.
Did she?
And said he should be. Yeah.
What did she say?
She came out today and sided with the victims.
Did she really?
She absolutely did.
Wow. And Janet Jackson's been very silent. LaToya to come out and do that, look, let's just call it what it is. When you're sleeping in a bed with little boys, regardless of whether nothing else after that is inappropriate, to me that's enough. And it also exposes these parents who are just awful.
And I'll tell you this, in a lot of situations like this, the male, the Michael Jackson figure here, they usually take pictures or videos for their own personal use. And I would not be shocked if something like that popped up in the next few. If they really dig deep into this, I would not be shocked if that was out there somewhere.
Yeah, and by the way, also important to note, these 2 victims that did this show, they did not get paid $1 to do it. That is very important. There's no book deals out there. There's no movie. But I wanted to talk also about, of course, the border wall and illegal immigration. We were just talking about a story that I just heard today. You guys were showing it to me on your phone about how they're trying to pass some sort of law that would allow illegals to vote. Is that true? Because if that's true, that is outrageous. How can anyone push for something like that? I mean, I would imagine the Democrats would push for that. This is the first time I've heard this story. What do you know about this?
Again, I only saw something on social media. I don't know if it's a law because I would think it would be you have to pass a constitutional amendment.
Right.
I would think. But it might be a resolution. I'm not sure. But I showed you the articles, and I don't know if they're credible or not.
I mean, they look credible.
What I try not to do, because there's so many people that post on social media and they post things that are fake, that unless you really recognize the publication, you need to do a little more research. But there were a couple.
And even now, that doesn't even mean much.
Yeah. But there's a couple of them that have said that the Democrats are pushing a resolution saying they believe all residents in the country should vote legal, illegal, and
I don't agree with that.
And what does that do? For example, if your family is on welfare and the family has 5 kids, and all those kids are, and the entire family is dependent on the government, when these kids grow up, what are the chances that they're going to be voting Democratic? Extremely, extremely strong, and it's the exact same thing here.
That's not the reason why I don't agree with the law. It's got nothing to do with politics, and it just has everything to do with if you're illegal, I don't think you should vote, period.
No, it's not even a close call.
Right. Nor should you have a driver's license because you can't get insured.
Right. You shouldn't be in the country.
Of course.
You should not be in the country. Look, you shouldn't be in the country. As you mentioned earlier, the vast majority of people that come here illegally are really good, hardworking people.
That overstay their visas.
I come from the Central Valley. I was there for 7 years when my dad was coaching in Fresno.
Right.
And you talk to those farmers out there, and they'll rave about how hardworking some of the people are that come here. Many of them are illegal, but that's not the point. Then change the immigration laws. It's the fault of our legislators to not allow people to come in here legally and do it the right way.
You would agree both sides?
Well, I think it's the Democrats that don't want. Well, yes, mostly the Democrats.
Because Brian, where are they voting? If they can vote, they're obviously voting on the left.
No, I believe this. Now, again, you're going to disagree, but the point. Let me get to the point is this: Congress and the Senate could pass this if they wanted to, and they don't. So your question is, well, is it both sides that don't want it done? Well, I think the Democrats, and again, this is just me. I may be tainted because I've ran on the Republican side, but I listen to the Democrats. President Obama promised the first thing I do when I get elected, I'm going to pass comprehensive immigration reform, and he had the opportunity to do it. He had a Democrat Senate, 60 votes in the Senate. He had Democrat-controlled Congress, 60 votes in the Senate, and he could pass anything. Instead, he passed health care. He didn't pass immigration reform.
Right.
Because once immigration reform is passed, then you take away the carrot that drives the Hispanic community to vote for the Democrats, which is the immigration issue. You take that immigration issue away. Now you're looking at family values. They're very pro-life. They're hardworking entrepreneurs, and many of them will probably switch over and be vote on the Republican side. And I don't think the Democrats want that to happen.
Let me just break this down for both of you in like a minute of how I feel about this whole issue. Number one, I don't think it should have been declared a state of emergency. Obviously, the numbers are lowest now, people crossing the border illegal, than they ever have been, pretty much in the last 20 years anyway, if you look at the statistics. Number three, the biggest issue with illegal immigration in this country are people, the larger amount of people are the ones that overstay their visas. I'm not saying we shouldn't have border security, okay, but if he wants all this money just for a wall, I don't agree with that. I think we need to address all the issues, not just the wall issue.
Oh, that's so ridiculous.
What's ridiculous?
You can't address all the issues about the people that are here illegally until you stop the ability of people coming in illegally. And you're saying that there's more on the visas. My understanding, they're about the same, but it's completely irrelevant. They should stop both. And they should take measures to stop both. No, you're saying they should do comprehensive before you stop. Before you provide the means to stop people from coming.
The numbers that I read are not 50-50, though, Danny.
Okay. And Brian,
I mean, that's a side point. I don't want to. Let me finish what I'm trying to say here. You can't have comprehensive immigration reform. Meaning, what are you going to do with all the 10 plus whatever million people here illegally, and the dreamers and all that stuff until you stop the ability of people coming in here illegally? If not, you pass it like Reagan did in '89, and you have the same problem 20 years later. You got to stop it.
So let me ask you another question.
The Democrats all voted for the funding of the wall 10, 12 years ago.
And also, how do you discern between the illegal and the legal immigrants if there is no barrier? And why aren't you're not thinking about the opioid crisis, which is very, very real? I would say about 80% of that fentanyl is coming through that border.
Legal ports of entry.
Not only that, but there's actually been numbers. There's been studies that about 40% that are coming through the southern border aren't from Mexico. They're actually they're Arab, they're Saudi Arabian, they're Iranian. I mean, everybody is coming through this southern border now. Well, it's not just South America.
You mentioned the drugs. I'll say that most of the drug.
And MS-13. What percentage of MS-13, which is a very, very large problem in the United States, what percentage of the members are actually coming from the southern border?
You mentioned drugs, so I'm just addressing that and saying that most of the drugs that come into this country are through legal ports of entry. So that's number one.
I don't understand. So that means we shouldn't protect the
Didn't say that.
the port?
Didn't say that.
Just because most are doesn't mean you can't stop the rest.
Okay, so you just brought up a point about, you don't want to do comprehensive. You don't want to do this all at once. Let's address the issue one at a time. I'm telling you that most of the stats that I read tell me that the overwhelming majority of illegals into this country are the ones that overstay their visas. So why are we not addressing that? I'll tell you why I think we're not addressing that. Because Donald Trump on a campaign trail said we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. And I think it's more about fulfilling a fake fallacy of a campaign when he was on the campaign than actually doing what's right for the country. If we have all that money, I believe we should start with number one.
I would say it's 80-20. I would say 80% is him actually thinking that it really helps the United States, which it does. It's definitely. And if Trump wasn't president, this wall would be happening.
All right, first of all, I didn't say you had to do one at a time. I said you have to stop the problem before you can solve the rest of the issues of the people here. So you stop the ability of people coming in illegally and overstaying the visas, and then you make find the right solution for the people that are already here. It's lunatic. It's crazy to think that we should do exactly what Reagan did in '89, pass some type of comprehensive immigration reform, but at the same time not prevent this from happening again. And that's the point I was making. Second of all, this article right here by Vox, which is a liberal publication, says that border crossings are at an 11-year high. So I don't know where.
I don't know where you got that from.
Well, Vox, it's a liberal one.
That's
Danny. So right now,
that's weird.
When you oversee immigrants they're given 180 days to renew their visa, which is 6 months. That's plenty of time. What do you think and the punishment is you have to stay out of the country for 3 years if you overstay your visa and you get caught. What do you think the appropriate punishment is for an immigrant who has a visa, who's given a chance to renew it 180 days, they choose not to? What do you think the appropriate punishment is for something like that?
What? What do I think it is?
Yeah, what do you think it is?
Oh, I mean, you need to follow the laws. They have to be deported. I'm not sure if you want 3 years. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, they're saying 3 years.
The problem is they're not deporting them. They're overstaying it. But there's another issue when you start talking about the people that come in with visas. They've identified who they are. There's a record of them being here. And when you have a visa, there's some kind of a background check that is done on them before they come here. Mm-hmm. That's completely different than somebody sneaking across the border that you have no idea who they are. You have no idea they're in the country or what they're doing in the country. And that's why the southern border, protecting that is so important. Look, I believe it's a national crisis and a national emergency, if you want to call it. I absolutely do not believe President Trump should declare it as that to get the funding, because I had a conversation with my very liberal aunt and uncle in Southern California during the Obama years. And the aunt was talking about how she's so happy Obama's passing all these things through the executive order. And I said to her, you better be careful, because at some point there's going to be a Republican office and they're going to pass things and you're going to hate it. Now the Democrats don't like what Trump's doing.
Exactly.
And Trump's going to up the ante, and then the Democrats could be off. It's going to be worse.
Exactly. Why are not more? I couldn't agree more. Why are not more Republicans talking about that? There are few, but not many. 257-5396. It sets a dangerous precedence for both sides. I agree.
Absolutely.
702-257-5396. That was my number one argument why I thought he was making a mistake, was what Danny just said. Let's go to Brian. Brian, thanks for calling in. How are you, Brian?
Hey, what's up, Brian?
Loving the show, guys.
Thank you.
All right. I wanted to go back and ask Danny. You're a lawyer, right, Danny?
Yes. I mean, I don't practice anymore, but I have a law degree.
I'm wondering about the term called the fruit of the poisonous tree.
Yes.
In regards to the Mueller investigation and all the collusion stuff that's been happening, and even the people who've been found guilty of process crimes during this investigation. So Barr comes in here and he finds out that the FISA warrants and the other things were phony, that they were trumped up, no pun intended, when presented before the FISA court judges. Would not all of these other things be able to be thrown out because of that? They were fruit from a poisonous tree that was false from the very beginning.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right legal-wise, but we're not talking about legal proceedings here. If this is going to be something that is going to possibly lead to an impeachment hearing, those aren't legal hearings. In fact, there isn't that standard.
Yes, but according to the Mueller thing, that is a legal thing, right? Because all these other people have been found guilty in courts of law, in the Southern District of New York, and in the case of Cohen and Manafort, and some of these other areas. But they all come back from that same tree.
Yeah, any of the evidence they find from, if they do find, and they certainly should, from what we understand, the FISA warrants being illegal or wrongly obtained. All that evidence is what you call fruit of the poison tree. Any evidence that's derived from that should be excluded from any court hearings. But any impeachment hearings are not court hearings; they're different.
Correct.
I don't think they'll have the same standard of evidence.
Anything else, Brian?
One other thing.
Go ahead.
One other thing. I think the Democratic Party is doomed for 2020, and with what's happening right now on their side, veering so far to the left, that Trump is going to breeze into the next election.
Let me, and that's a great point. Let me just comment on that for a second. First of all, there's two things I can say. And one, they got a couple people that'll run that are probably semi in the middle ground, Biden being one of them. Although I don't know if they'll elect somebody like that. They're such a passion right now on the left to elect somebody that is further to the left that they may vote for that person. But this is the thing that I'm most concerned about. There has been a great effort, and again, I got to tell you, President Trump has caused a lot of his own problems with some of his statements, particularly statements that he makes about people personally. It turns people off.
Totally agree. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that really don't like him because of that. My biggest concern is this, and I mean this: if you talk about the concern for our country and where we're headed, is that the Democrats nominate somebody who's really far to the left, a crazy person out there that wants socialism and so forth. And they run against Trump, and Trump is so disliked by enough people because of what he has said about his character statements more than his policy positions. There may be people that just have the passion to say, I'm not going to vote for President Trump. I don't like the way he talked about John McCain or he talked about X, Y, or Z. They don't vote for him. And then the only alternative is this crazy socialist on the left. Our country's going to be destroyed.
Yeah, and that's what I think, because even the people who don't like what he say, don't like him as a person, don't like his character flaws. When you look at these candidates pushing socialism, and all that entails free college, free this, free that, we're going to pay off all your student loans, we're all going to be on Medicare, it's all going to be free, and then you've got the green fanaticism,
right?
This total insanity, and then you couple that with infanticide now that they've embraced, and then the anti-Semitism that they can't even come up with a censure against this gal.
Yeah,
I think Trump's going to win in a landslide.
But if he did lose, I think that if a borderline socialist candidate was elected, I think as one of the callers, Bob, asked about, I don't think not a civil war is a big stretch, but some type of riot or unrest or situation with militias or people with weapons, I think that could seriously be a possibility if that took place.
All right, in studio with Danny Tarkanian. If you'd like to give us a buzz, 257-5396, 702-257-5396. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit with what you just said, Danny. What did you say? The country would be ruined? If
we elect a far-left socialist that wants to...
You're talking about Bernie Sanders, a guy like that.
Bernie's not even as bad as some of the other ones that are out there right now.
You think if Joe Biden won...
No, I said... You didn't listen to me. I said Joe Biden was one of the normal ones. That if he won, that he'd have a good chance of winning.
Is there anybody else on the Democrat side?
I don't know a lot of the other ones except the ones that have had the publicity out there about him already. Remember, nobody knew who Bill Clinton was in 92, right, when he won the first time. So there may be one of these obscure ones that win. But you look at the things that Kamala Harris, Gilbrandt, am I saying her name right? Yeah. They're all embracing the green proposal, which is the craziest thing out there. It's the most ridiculous proposal.
It's not going to pass.
But they're embracing and saying that it should. And they're again, they all want single payer health insurance again. These are things that are pushing the country so far to the left. Look, we are the greatest economic force in the history of mankind, the United States. We have the vast majority of the reason the rest of the world is not, poverty has gone down so dramatically is because of what we here in the United States has done in our economy. There's a reason why it's so great. It's because we embrace capitalism, the rewards that you have when you work hard, you take educated risks, and people reap those rewards, as opposed to the socialist countries that have failed one after another after another. If we lose that here in the United States, not only is our country going down the hill, the rest of the world is too.
I think, and I know you said you weren't talking about Joe Biden. I do think if Joe Biden were president, you can disagree with the way he handled the country. You could disagree with some of his policies. I think he's a decent man. I think Bernie Sanders is a decent man. I think he's a good person. And I think
Bernie Sanders is too. But his policies are crazy.
Well, look,
he won't even talk poorly about the Venezuelan dictator.
I understand what you just said. Let me talk about that. Okay, first of all, when it comes to Bernie Sanders, no, I don't agree that everyone should be getting paid $15 an hour. I'm not comfortable with a 16-year-old kid working at McDonald's. But you know what I am comfortable with? Walmart paying people $15 an hour. If you're 21 years or older and maybe you don't have the ability to go to college, I'm sick and tired of these big companies paying minimum wage, getting away with it. Now, I know that would hurt small business. Again, I am not advocating for a $15 minimum wage. I'm not advocating for free college. I don't agree with some of these people that are way to the left. But yes, in some circumstances, when the top CEOs are making billions of dollars and they're paying their employees minimum wage in these huge companies, I do have a problem with that.
I'm going to even give you a better argument.
You disagree with that?
I'm going to give you a better argument. Look, I have a concern that when they raise the minimum wages, you're going to end up losing jobs, which you're seeing that in many of the fast foods and other businesses, restaurants that are out there now.
Business.
But let me give you an argument. I've said this a lot, and every time I talk to somebody who's against the minimum wage, raising the minimum wage, I say this to them, and it is an impact. Look, if you can get $400 a month or whatever the highest amount is from being on unemployment, and you can get an Obama phone.
Right.
You're going to get health care covered for you. You can get all this other stuff. Why would you work when you're only making $7.25 an hour?
I agree.
So you're incentivizing people not to work.
I agree.
And there's and that's the best argument about why we should be paying people more.
Sure.
But look, you just made the point that you're saying you don't think we should have one of these far left crazy nuts.
I don't think Bernie Sanders is a nut. I wouldn't use that word. I think he's a good man. I just don't agree with a couple of his policies. Donald Trump calls him a nut. I don't think he's a nut.
Every top candidate out there, Biden's not in yet, and I don't know if Sanders has said he's for it or not. But the other one, no, I know he is. But I'm saying, every other one, Kamala Harris, Gillibrand, Warren, and all these others, they've all embraced the green policies, which included. Now think about this: everybody should have a living wage, whether you're working or don't want to work.
Okay, well, that's
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
Wasn't that you can't work. It was you don't want to work. Well, these people that
I don't
you're
agree
saying,
with that.
But there's 4 of the top Democrat candidates that have embraced this.
Well, Joe Biden, as far as I know, wouldn't go for something like that. I don't think he would vote for it. Okay, well, I would support Joe Biden. Let's take a couple more calls, Danny. 257-5396. It's a good debate. It's a good discussion. 257-5396. Danny Tarkanian in studio. Let's go to Ron. Ron, thanks for calling in. How are you, Ron?
Good evening, gentlemen. How's everybody doing?
Doing good, Ron. What's on your mind, man?
Well, you guys keep talking about there's going to be a revolution. There's going to be let me tell you something about this revolution everybody's talking about. I'm 73 years old. Ever since I was a little kid, I grew up with my buddies whose fathers had basements back in Pennsylvania full of rifles, full of guns. I mean, some of these guys had 300-400 weapons.
Is that the Loesch residence? I'm sorry, that was a bad joke. Go ahead.
And their basements, all the walls were covered with rifles, and everyone was loaded because they always believed that an empty gun wasn't worth the room it took up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me tell you something. If these so-called revolutionists want to have a revolution, and they come up against my friends from Pennsylvania and us real nationalists,
it's not going to
real people.
Ron, there's not going to be a revolution.
Country, they won't have a chance, buddy.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call, Ron. Thank you. I'm not quite sure what the point was of that phone call, except that you have a lot of guns in your basement, and I would imagine probably a bunch of dead bodies as well. That was a weird call. 257-5396. A reminder, we have Danny Tarkanian in studio. I don't need to find out how many guns you have in your basement and how your buddies will kill a bunch of people in a revolution. That was just weird, JD. I don't know. That was a weird call. What do you even say to that call?
That was like an obscure way to chest thump.
We had 73-year-old Jeffrey Dahmer Sr. just call in. Let's go to John. John, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure, John. What's on your mind?
You know, I always hear so much negativity when it regards to socialism. And, I can't imagine in our country if we didn't have Medicare and Social Security. And I can't imagine, Republicans would be screaming if that was brought up in today's world. And I just can't even imagine not having that available to our elderly population.
Danny, you want to respond?
Well, first of all, I think most of us all agree that we need to have some type of health insurance to cover people. Even Medicare is only for the elderly, mostly for the elderly. The Medicaid is for the poor and stuff. And there certainly needs to be some type of mechanism to allow that to happen. But I'll tell you what I don't agree with, and I think most Republicans don't either, is Social Security. I would, if there was a program to save money, forcibly save money for retirement, which let's say that's a good plan because some people are just too irresponsible to spend it. Well, why wouldn't you put it either in a lockbox like it was promised, or put it in something where the individual had a right to put it in where they could make money off of the money that they're saving there? Most people that put into Social Security never get back the amount of money that they put into it. And they certainly don't get the return that they would have had if they invested it privately. Why should we be penalized that people that can and will make the right decisions to better their lives in the future, to reap the rewards of their hard work and the money they've earned, because some people may be too irresponsible and will lose it all and spend it all. So instead we have Social Security where we're paying, basically it's just a tax for other people.
John, you had another comment or question for Danny?
Well, just another one on the income, or the $15 an hour. Like, we all just argue, $15 an hour, that's crazy. Does he agree with minimum wage, or do you agree with minimum wage in general? And what should it be? I mean, $7.50, whatever that definitely is is not right.
Here, John, can I respond to that? Me and Danny were just talking about that. Look, I'm not comfortable with a 16 or 17-year-old kid in high school making $15 an hour, flipping burgers. All due respect to people who have those jobs. I don't want a 16 or 17-year-old making that kind of money. With that being said, these huge companies that are making billions of dollars, I wouldn't have a problem with taking a little bit away from the higher ups, so to speak, and paying people maybe over the age of 21 that are trying to make a living. And I know Danny disagrees with me, trying to make a living. And what's a livable wage? Can you make a living working 40 hours a week at $12 an hour? Be pretty rough, right? Be pretty difficult, but it's a little better than $8 an hour. I'm not saying $15 an hour, but I think it would hurt small business, and that's why in certain circumstances it's a difficult subject for me, but in certain circumstances, not small business, not a 16 or 17-year-old kid, I do think the minimum wage should be raised a little bit, but not to where Bernie Sanders says.
I'm laughing because it's easy to say certain things that you like without having the specific requirements for all these things. First of all, the thing that you said that caught my attention, taking some money from the higher up. So you're going to pass some law that says, hey, Walmart, you're a publicly traded company. We're going to tell you that you cannot pay your CEO or your top employees.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So much, or if you do, we're going to take X amount of dollars from them and give it to you.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, well, so that probably doesn't work.
That's not what I'm saying. Can I explain can I be a little bit more specific? Because that's absolutely not what I said. I'm okay with raising the minimum wage a little bit. The problem I have is these companies that are making billions of dollars are, in my opinion, some of them, not all of them, are taking advantage of their workers, paying them minimum wage. Now, if you raise it a couple dollars, not $15 an hour, that some people, like these CEOs of the company, are going to be naturally not making as much money. Maybe it'll be, I'm just putting this out there, maybe a guy making, $5 billion a year is now going to make $4 billion a year. But then you have thousands and thousands of your employees that are making a couple hundred extra bucks on their paycheck, and that is more important to them, I guarantee you, than a guy who has $10 billion in the bank that's going to lose $1 billion a year.
No one's arguing that, but it's not going to come from the CEOs. It'll end up coming from the stockholders. Stockholders,
fine.
Exactly.
Well, then don't buy stock into Walmart. Okay. That's fine.
So whatever companies you choose to do this with, we'll just tell those companies your stock's going to decrease while the other ones are going to increase. Look, there's a lot of problems with that, but it goes back to this. I think the worst thing that we do in a country is to create incentives for people not to work who can't work. Obviously, if somebody cannot work because of mental or physical infirmity, we should do something to help them. Okay, the people who can work, why create incentives for them? Yeah. If the minimum wage is so low that you can stay home and make more money and have more coverage than going out and working,
that's a
then
problem.
Why would people go work?
I agree.
You got to have really motivated people to do that.
I agree.
And there are some like that. God bless them.
But Danny, that's why I want the minimum wage to go up a little bit.
I'm not arguing against it. I'm telling you this is, but it's a point of what number is it
You're
works.
Right. And Danny, it's sad. You're right that there are people out there that are choosing not to work because they have no incentive to work. They're on food stamps. They get welfare. They have food. All that
Obama
stuff.
phone.
Well, look, that costs money too. I get it. I used to have a pretty bad phone. People said, "Hey, how's your Obama phone doing?" But JD, how much money did you make your first job? That's what I wanted. I made $10 an hour. I never made minimum wage. I worked at a health spa when I was 16. I had to look at naked old men. It was a fantastic job. What did you have to do?
Do you count mowing lawns?
Yeah. So what did you? Can you give me an idea?
I made like $25 a lawn, and that's
not bad.
It probably took me like an hour and 20 minutes.
That's not even close to minimum wage. That's like triple minimum wage.
Probably $18 an hour, and I got paid cash under the table.
See, that's not a bad job. That's a hardworking job, but you're outside. Danny, how much money did you make your first job?
It was a commission job selling, what do you call when you print people's business stuff on it?
Oh, business cards.
Well, no, hats, pens.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Type of thing,
What did a job like that pay back in the day?
Boy, it's been a long time ago. I don't know. It's all based on commission, but it helped that I was able to get in and be with some business people that were big UNLV fans. I think that was the purpose.
Yeah, I think I would imagine that helped a lot. Well, I think we all agree. We want people to persevere. We want them to succeed in life. Some jobs take more skills than others. Sometimes people don't have the wherewithal to do the jobs that anyone is doing. But you'd hope that someone that's maybe in their late 20s, 30s. That's making $8 an hour, working hard. Give them a few extra bucks an hour at least. I don't think that would kill many businesses out there. But Danny, always fun to have you in studio, my man. Always appreciate it. We always get a ton of phone calls when you come in here, and we definitely want you to come in again. Before I let you go, I got to ask you a quick UNLV question. Does Marvin Menzies come back next year? What do you think? What is your feeling?
I think he will. This year has been better than last year. Mm-hmm. I don't think they'll make a move. That's my guess.
I tend to agree with you on that, but the state of affairs, I'm sure your father would have agreed, not in the best shape UNLV is in right now. Far cry from when you were playing and when your dad was here. We miss your dad very much. Always great to, I want to talk a little more UNLV with you next time you come in. But this was a good spirited debate. It was a lot of fun. Always appreciate it when you come in, Danny, and we'd love to have you on again soon, maybe next month at some point. Thank you so much. Coming up next, this is going to be a lot of fun, okay? I grew up watching this guy on Saturday Night Live, Wayne's World, Dana Carvey. He is so funny. I'm going to get him to have an argument with himself, or he does a very, very good Barack Obama and Donald Trump. So he's going to have a conversation with himself when we come back. Dana Carvey coming up next year on the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.